Okay, well, it's 5:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Bill, you want to lead us out on the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I've got in attendance, I've got myself, Dave Oberlin, Jan Reeves, present.
Yes.
Ken Reinhardt. Here. Michelle Reinhardt.
Here.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Mark Greenwood. Okay, the minutes from the last meeting were emailed to you months ago. And Jan does have a copy of them if you'd like to review them, but do we have a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Ken, okay, is gonna move to accept the meetings. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Michelle, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. The minutes are accepted. So I thought, since we've got, maybe we could do the new business first. And the old business is. So we have 3 signs to review, and we can do these in the order they were received. Which the first one was from Bezo Construction, dealing with new signage for the marathon on the corner of Main and River. And so there's some. Did you get a chance to look at them, Bill?
No. Did you see it? Bill?
So it looks like they're gonna redo the signage on the mansard of the canopy over the pumps, and then they're gonna redo the panels on the lighted sign on the corner, which Mark noted is very close to the corner of the property line, but that was a permitted sign, and it was, I mean, it was verified.
Yeah, it was the only thing I called into question when you're on the sidewalk. It's like, that sign is like
Yeah,
right at the cross of the sidewalks.
I thought it was a little close when they put it there, but that they had their survey done, and it's been there.
So is it close to 49 or 24?
It's right on the corner of 49 and Old 24. Yeah, 424.
It's really close to River Street.
River Street, okay.
And it was a lot busier back then,
Yeah.
so we made sure that.
Right.
But it is. They didn't.
Yeah, they use their whole footprint, which that's fine. It's 0 setback.
Which is that's the setbacks in the B1.
Yeah.
So, and then it looks like there's Michelle has the one that's for that page you were just looking at is the sign that'll go on the building, I believe.
So essentially, Gabe, just so I understand, basically they're just taking down the old signage and putting up new.
Correct.
These are all signs that are
If you
currently
look
existing.
close, the panel's cracked on the one side of the lighted sign, and
But this is nothing in addition to what is currently existing.
no,
They're just upgrading the way it sounds.
correct. And they're a conditional use, they've been properly permitted.
Right.
And everything's in order as far as that goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the sign.
Okay, Pop and Brew, got Bill moves to accept the Pop and Brew sign, got a second?
I'll second it.
Ken, the second. All those in favor of approving the Pop and Brew sign?
Aye.
Okay, passed. So the next one would be the Antwerp Pharmacy sign, since they moved to the Pocock building. They're on the corner of Railroad. They want to put a sign, it's not in color, but just it'd be flat against the building on the north side, above the canopy.
Do they own the building?
That's a-
As far as I know, the
I don't
pharmacy
think so.
leases
I
that
thought
space.
that,
Cook's own that
Cook's owned that,
Do
yeah.
they need written permission to put that up or a contract or something? You know, since they're actually leasing
They
or
have,
renting the property.
they have approval from the owner.
I said, they probably have approval.
I just want to make sure that the
Yeah.
the person who owns the building's okay with it, rather than
Yeah,
we put.
and they didn't provide a copy of their lease. That might be something I should, I could,
Provision in there.
I'm
so
sure
I know
there's
the
a
rest.
recommendation.
I'm sure it's got.
I'm gonna add that to
Cook
notes
told
here
me
to put a note on that to,
It's a, Brian said it's approved.
yeah, I have no doubt.
Oh, Brian,
Gabe, the one thing that I see kind of missing from at least what you've provided to us is the location of the sign on the building. Right, how high, how far back from the front, it's like,
Right, that's, it's
are
not
you installing
nearly
this?
as,
Do you know the details on this or not?
It's not 100% finalized,
Okay.
only because the Railroad Street project,
Right,
and we didn't know exactly how high everything was going. So the intent is to be like 6 foot from the bottom and then up from
so
there.
Bryce, you're the contractor,
I'm the installer on this
You're
one.
gonna install it? Okay.
And I can talk to you about it, but the Railroad Street project was going on, and because of that, we didn't want to start yet to make it messy.
yeah.
It's
So-
done and it's open.
I saw that.
yeah, I drove down.
Looks
there
good.
today.
Nice.
So,
Can't wait to try that slide-in parking.
That what?
The slide-in parking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
slide in, yeah. Looks nice.
So,
I.
those are good questions,
I mean,
Mark, but.
Honestly, I don't know that we're prepared to approve the installation of the sign. I mean, I'm fine with the sign being on that building, but honestly, Bryce, I think 6 feet from the ground is gonna be awfully low on that big building.
well, there's windows above it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't picture how all that.
Yeah.
So this is on the north side, on the railroad side of the street.
Right.
Gotcha.
And the reason is they wanted to be able to possibly see it from River Street.
Where
Railroad
we're on the.
As
if
people
we're
might
on
approach
the
their
east
previous
side of the
location, right, to
building.
be able to see it from there.
I don't have a problem with
I
it.
don't have a problem with it either.
Well, is there a motion to accept the,
I motion to accept.
okay, Michelle moved,
I'll second it.
Ken second.
I'm sure that if she has permission to put that up from the owners,
Yeah, Mr. Cook has
yeah.
given his blessing upon it.
All those in favor of approving the pharmacy sign?
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. So the last one I have is for the Hands of Hope at the Church of the Nazarene on South Erie Street. And it's up, if you haven't seen it, there is a sketch with the application. Now this one had some extenuating circumstances in that I was out of town I was on vacation when a lot of this came down. And I think that maybe there were some things that were misunderstood about whether or not or where this sign might be permittable in the village. And I see some individuals here from the church and
I knew of no misunderstanding
mhm.
at all. Am I allowed to speak?
Well, so let's, I'm not sure how to, I contacted the
I'm talking
church.
prior to the sign being put in.
Okay,
There was no misunderstanding. I was was instructed to contact the village administrator, which I did. And said there would be no problem, so we put it in.
Okay.
I sent each one of the members of this committee an email, and I explained exactly what had happened as I have to Gabe. And the simple fact is when they called, in my mind, I thought it was a temporary sign. They didn't tell me it was temporary, and they didn't say anything that was wrong. That's why I said, well, no, that wouldn't be a problem, because in my mind, I was thinking it was like a banner for, pie baking
Yeah.
contest or something like that.
Yeah, or special on
Yeah, but
cereal.
they didn't say that. It was just a busy day.
Right.
And I simply made a mistake because I said in the emails and stuff. So they were very forthright. Chuck came out and dropped off the paperwork, and I filled out the permit so that you would have it before you.
So to be clear, even a temporary sign should probably be of this size, should probably have a permit.
Yeah, and we understand that now, but it wasn't, that wasn't communicated to us, so we would have, of course, went through proper channels.
I believe that, Rick. I really do. And so, and I was out of town, and but then to look at it, it's not advertising services that are being offered at the church.
And we can easily rectify that by just adding our number as a contact point.
Okay. So that's something for the commission to consider.
Yeah, can I explain a little bit about that?
Sure.
I'm Doug Roop. I'm the founder of Hands of Hope Pregnancy Services, and I'm also the board president. First of all, on behalf of the board, as Rick said, there was no evil intent here. We thought that it was good, so we put the sign up. Let me tell you a little bit about our services, first of all, because I think there's some misunderstanding in the email chain that we're a business. We're a nonprofit organization. We take no money from any government entities. All of our money comes from private donations from individuals. We have somewhere between $600 and $1 million have come back into the county through services from Hands of Hope. So we are not benefiting from putting a sign up. Who is benefiting is the 18 families who have already come to Hands of Hope over the last 7 years from Antwerp. And that's not even counting families who may have come in during COVID. We never shut our doors during COVID. If they didn't have formula or diapers, they simply called us and set up an appointment. We set their stuff outside, they came and picked it up. We didn't take their name, so we don't know how many of those residents would have been from Antwerp, but we do provide services all over Paulding County. Also, we've had people from Williams County, Mercer County, Van Wert County, Defiance County, even some from Indiana. So it's not just this little area. I have a proclamation in front of me from Senator J.D. Vance congratulating us on our 10-year anniversary. So it's not a fly-by-night organization. We try to do what we can for the community, and that's what it's for. Like I said, we don't benefit from it. When I started this organization, I started on it about 12 years ago, myself and 2 other people. And the reason we started on it was because the Paulding County Health Department and the hospital did a survey, as they do every 2 or 3 years. And they asked simply, what services are needed in Paulding County? Mental health was one of the services, pregnancy services. As you know, Paulding County Hospital no longer has a maternity ward. We provide free and confidential ultrasounds, pregnancy tests, classes. They're in Spanish or English. We had one client who ended up in Paulding County from China. She was one of our clients. She simply could not find anybody else to help her. We've had other clients from Mexico, couldn't speak a bit of English, couldn't find anybody to help them. We were there to help them. Our doors are always open. So the reason the signs are there is a beacon of hope to people that said, hey, I can't find help somewhere else. Maybe I can go to Hands of Hope. That's why the sign is there. I wouldn't consider it a billboard. It's a sign that's basically informing people. We have services in Paulding. You can come and use those services. So that's a little explanation that's behind it. As I said before, please forgive us for our ignorance. We have a few of these signs in a few other villages. There was never a question and never even a comment about whether we could have the sign there. So that's my part of it, and that's what I wanted to explain.
Has everybody seen the sign?
Yes.
And I see it every day, right out my front window. I have no issues with it.
Well, I have a question for you, Gabe.
Mhm.
In your email transaction with these guys, you said billboards are not permitted in a B2 zone. I couldn't find any verbiage stating that fact that billboards are not permitted. Is there something I missed?
It is in the chart.
Yeah,
There is no
It's
verbiage
permitted.
Page
stating that.
28,
There is no verbiage,
only A1 zones.
so I'm not sure how that works.
Here's an
or
interesting point.
industrial.
Here's an interesting point. In the United States, a standard billboard is 14 feet by 48 feet. That sign's 4 by 8. I think using the term billboard is a little bit of an exaggeration.
I didn't see any defining factors as to what a billboard was.
And that would have been my general comment.
Zoning
I find it a difficult
or
time
signage, really.
with what we're working with to delineate between the sign and the billboard,
Well,
especially in this circumstance.
And we
right?
had a debate
That's,
about whether or not to come up with standards for signage, and this
Right.
is,
This is the
what
result, yes.
This is what the planning commission decided, this is the way they wanted to deal with signs. They wanna see them before they go up. It's not really whether or not nobody complained about it, but it went up without a permit, and
okay.
this,
And it
Pam-
sounds
this
like
group-
we're trying to rectify it right now with
Right.
this.
Correct.
So
So to
it
rewind,
is a service that's very needed.
And my job is to, when I see a zoning violation, then I notify the people in writing, which is what I did. And so,
Why was it considered a billboard?
so whether or not it was a billboard, it's still a sign, a permanent sign without a permit. So that, not having a permit is the violation. The reason I determined it to be a billboard is because it is not advertising for services at that location. The church already has a sign, and it's not about the content, it's not a.
Is there another
Free
sign on the
speech.
location?
yeah, they
It
have,
is.
the church has
Church
their
has
The
sign.
church has.
Is there any other sign on the location?
Just the village.
Is I don't know where the village signs are, village signs
There
are.
are welcome to Antwerp signs right
The
there.
welcome to Antwerp sign, does the village of Antwerp do business there? On that property?
No, sir.
I'd say if there's services going to the
That's not
water
what,
and sewer.
does the village of Antwerp do business, because that's what was stated. Does the village of Antwerp do business on that property?
Well, if you wanna get technical, Bryce, I got issues with the village sign.
No,
okay?
no, I'm just
I know,
asking
wait,
because-
I'm telling you right now.
Because
that
we have
that
to treat
sign
it
was
the
put up without a permit too,
Uh-oh.
and I got issues with that sign too.
Well, I'm just asking because they would have to be
So,
treated
If
identically.
you wanna talk about, I didn't wanna talk about the Antwerp one, just if you wanna go there, I think we
Maybe-
should stick to this one.
Maybe
Well,
should we
And
just
two
go ahead
wrongs
and
do
say,
not make a
okay,
right.
No,
let's
I'm
just
just-
go ahead and I'll motion to approve it.
I'll second. If I even have a vote, somebody
You do,
second it.
you do.
I
You are a
don't, I'm
member.
here,
No,
but I second it.
you are the, okay, so Michelle.
And I do have a gavel.
That's right, it's your hand, it's your
Okay.
commission.
I have to get it out.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the Hands of Hope sign at the Church of the Nazarene?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The sign is permitted.
Very good.
Okay,
Let's use ourselves then?
yes.
Yes.
You have more than welcome to do. Where's my met with him, all right.
Yeah.
So, there were some minor things on code that I'm trying to just put tie up some loose ends on code. One that came up, on mobile home definitions. It defines it as so many, it means square feet, but it just says feet.
Oh, right.
So I wanted to,
So what do you want? You want square feet in there?
yeah, but I think we can do all these at once. It's
Given, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
so last year we kind of worked collectively over several meetings to make a number of revisions and submit like kind of an annual bucket of revisions.
right.
Is this kind of the first step of going
Well,
through
we
that
did
same process?
We did some back in March.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's kind of trying to add
So
these.
there's kind
to
of a
them.
process, right, to
Right.
get over the hump, so.
Right. So then there's, one spot on the permanent foundation where it specifically says, you can't have a gap between the foundation and, it says home, but I think it should say structure, just to make it, and I didn't.
So what do you mean by a gap?
So,
What the
Space.
Yeah.
Where's the space at?
like if you're building a house on a foundation, it should be, I think they're talking about,
If you're
not
building-
not putting up some blocks underneath a trailer and calling that a
So
foundation.
it pertains to trailers.
Yeah, and it's just not all structures are homes, but it says specifically there shouldn't be any gap between the foundation and the home. But I feel like after reading it, and I could bring that up for
I
you.
was gonna say, in which section are we talking about? Is this in the mobile home
No, it's in the.
or the R1?
um,
Confused on where we're at.
This is in the definition, it's the definition of a permanent foundation.
Oh, back in the like glossary of terms is what you're referring to. Okay.
Okay, so that's glossary of terms.
So this is, section 800 is the definitions. Let's see here. So that's the mobile home one. Okay, in the definition of permanent foundation.
Yeah.
Actual definition. And it means a permanent masonry, concrete, or locally approved footing or foundation that meets all the following criteria.
Okay.
There's 3. Number 1, must be poured concrete or cement block with poured footer and no less than 3 feet deep, 8 inches wide, with a height 18 inches or 2 8-inch blocks above the ground. Which I don't know what you do on a slab foundation. But at no time should the foundation ever be covered by skirting. That's number 2. And number 3, should the structure be permanent? The structure should be permanently attached to the foundation, leaving no visible gaps between the foundation and, it says home, foundation and home. And I just think it should be foundation and structure. But it's just that's a minor change, but.
Right.
And then there's a typo in non-conforming use. It just has a random 9 in there. So those were 3 changes that.
Right.
And I wanted to include in the update.
Yeah.
And I don't, at this point, if I don't get some of this other stuff taken care of, I don't know if I'll have time to do an update, because it is time consuming. And
Well, I see no objection to making those simple revisions.
okay, sorry. We moved to-
Yeah, I make a motion to approve. And there was no other items not listed, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's.
I was kind of waiting
I
to
can
see if you
cross
had
that
other,
out. I don't
other
have any
housekeeping
more.
in there.
No, and didn't get to any more.
That's fine.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So then, there was, on old business, there is, in the March meeting, you guys, we talked about trash, and you guys wanted a draft, violation letter,
Oh, yeah.
which this is the draft I came up with, and I haven't done anything with it because we hadn't had a chance to discuss it, but, I believe it was Bill brought this up, section 907 required trash areas, basically that they need to have, some type of fence or something to cover them up. And then there's also, I think you had a list of folks that didn't have them covered up.
Right.
And
And I didn't have it on that list, but the Catholic Church, I assumed was going to be taken down, but it's still there, they've got dumpsters as well. So that would have to be included if we go forward with it.
so the section 907 is straight out of the zoning. The section 512 is straight out of zoning. That's nothing, there's no creative license there. So it's just, you're being advised, this is what your violation is. Then, I had the date, wow, it was for today. I didn't check that. I just threw that date in there. and
Yeah,
it's today.
I noticed that. Gave him a lot of warning there, didn't we? You're in trouble.
Well, we were gonna give them all summer to do it. I think I probably thought about
It's
it.
just poking.
And then I made a note that a zoning permit is required to install a fence or a wall, and you can get the application on the website, and then please contact me so that we can discuss it. Which,
Was this to put a fence around all dumpsters? Is that what this is for?
for businesses,
For businesses?
yeah.
Commercial, industrial, multifamily.
Have we reached out to Real Waste to see how that could affect them?
It doesn't, we're not changing the ordinance, we're just talking about enforcing it, something that's already in the ordinance.
Okay, it's just there.
It's three-sided fence, it's not, there's none in the front, it's just the sides and the back.
And I do have some, it's at the last line, provisions for adequate vehicular access to and from such area or areas for collection of trash as determined by the zoning inspector shall be required. So I've got some,
Yeah. And there's wiggle room in the variance too, right? I mean, depending on where this is located, on the church property perhaps, maybe they can only put up 2 walls. Okay, so we make a variance.
right,
Give them a
because
permit
there's a garage
for
10
2
feet
walls
away.
and they
on
park
other
it against the
side.
building,
Yeah.
right, whatever. So, yeah.
I
I think there's processes in place to handle the things that don't just fall right in place.
Correct. So, if you want me to mail them out to some folks, I can, I'm getting used to poking the bear and dealing with the consequences, so.
Well, I guess some of it comes back to Jan, so this is gonna become a judicial issue, right? Potentially. So, is this the kind of stuff that we wanna start cranking up on?
Yeah, I don't think so, not, there's a lot of,
I don't know how we move in the right direction, right? I mean, this is like a step to move in the right direction. Okay, so how do we do this without just creating a bunch of discord, that falls in.
To back you up on that, we already struggle getting businesses in.
Yeah.
And if we start picking at businesses on stuff,
I agree.
I'm afraid that people aren't gonna come here because
Right.
they're gonna hear that they don't let you do anything.
Yeah.
I agree with you,
So just,
to a certain degree.
yeah, so just on the back side of that, are there any circumstances that are like detrimental to the village or neighboring businesses or neighboring neighbors that anybody is aware of?
Well, I'm the one that started the complaint, and the complaint come from Five Star Construction. They're using the big pole barn, which belongs to Doug Bragg,
Right.
which is, and they've got a huge ass, rusty ass dumpster. When I look out my front window, there that baby is.
Uh-huh.
What a beautiful sight.
Yeah.
And it goes right down the football field drive. Everybody that comes to a track meet or a football game, there it is. It is height and glory, old rusty.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Don't
that's
they
like-
build fences?
Yeah, but, you know, to me, that's an eyesore on the community.
And it's an opportunity for
But-
them to display their workmanship.
You can't pick and choose, you know, say, well, okay, yours is bad and yours isn't. Where do you go with, it, you know?
When we dealt with swimming pools, we hit everybody. We had one big mad angry mob and we talked it over and we got council involved, and if there was enough people that didn't, thought that there should be changes, then that made the opportunity for people to speak their piece. And then I feel like that was one where that caused us to change in a positive way. We changed the ordinance because of getting those people's attention and doing everybody all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's my thing. It's like, are we gonna create more harm than solving problems that maybe don't truly exist? And I understand, that's why I wanted to just talk about, other than this one circumstance, are there other circumstances?
To me, some of these garbage dumpsters, or whatever you want to call them, don't look as bad as a trash can that people leave set out by the street for days. And there's a lot of that happening. They just put their trash can out this morning, and it'll be there 3 days from now, right by the street. So what do you do?
Maybe should we send a reminder first before we start saying violations? Like, remind the community, hey, look, we do have this ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and this is what the ordinance says, instead of saying, you're gonna get a violation because you're the one that's messing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Doug brags. Maybe if somebody said something to Doug and said, hey, okay, I'll put something up there, and he made no hard feelings,
I think it's Bob, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got, if memory serves me, that's a roll-off
Yeah.
construction dumpster.
Yeah.
And those are not easy to manage into a fenced-in corral.
No.
So typically, the way that they handle those, at least out at my facility, is I have to give them 2 spaces to land. One for the dumpster they bring and one for the dumpster they take away.
Oh, right.
Because they don't,
They have to
otherwise
load.
they have to load up the full dumpster, take it out to the street and set it in the street or somewhere, right? And then offload it in the street, grab the new empty dumpster, and it adds like an hour to there. So in that industrial marketplace, that's generally the way they want to do business. They want you to have 2 spots.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, if that were to take place in this world, he'd have to have a pretty doggone big area
Right.
and allow for a little bit of wiggle room for this truck to maneuver this thing. So
Right.
I
it's,
think we ought to take into consideration too, some of the businesses that have these dumpsters. That's better than having it piled up outside, or what
having
am I gonna
bags
do
where
with
the
this
raccoons
trash?
get in it, and yeah.
They can toss it in there and it's not
It's definitely
overflowing.
cleaner over there than what it was from
Yeah.
the past owner.
Yeah,
It's a
oh
lot
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Would that also affect the
Does that
school?
one come and go, Bill,
Because
or
they've
is
got
that
dumpsters
just
out
always
there.
sitting there?
Or there's
Well,
not
there's always
exposed, or
one
they got
there.
a
Not
crowd.
always the
Always
same
one.
one, there's always one there.
Could be wrong, but I mean, nobody's next to them, so.
Well, we give a
Yeah.
conditional use permit, maybe we should review that and what were they, but that was for the other building.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
they
a
were
different property.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And they pretty much, that was the appeals board, right? Not you guys, that approved that conditional use.
Yeah.
But they pretty much told the zoning appeals board that, look, we won't have anything out. It'll all be behind a fence or inside. And then you're telling me they expanded to another structure. So then that might give me the opportunity to speak to them based on their conditional use. We don't have to drag everybody into it. I could.
You're talking about
That's not a
Doug.
bad
You're
idea.
talking
Well,
about-
see, I
You're
Doug
talking-
come up here when he was wanting to split that property. If you remember right, they wanted to split it, and he said, you know, my boy's gonna use this pole barn for this use, you know, it's still mine, it's in my name.
That
but-
was in council though.
Yeah,
'Cause
that was during the council meeting, and they, you know, he was forthcoming with it, but, you know, dumpster is a dumpster. That's part of the, like you said, it's part of the business, but it's a bit of
Yeah.
an eyesore as well.
Let me pull up the conditional use permit and we can review that at the next meeting and, then
That sounds good.
I'll,
Yeah,
Sorry.
then okay with you. So we'll just table for,
Yeah. Let's table the sending out notices.
further investigation. Okay, and the only other thing I had on here, there were those changes that I'm pretty sure I sent them to you. It was more like, we'd already discussed them. It was issues where there was a fill in the blank that hadn't been filled in.
On 425, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so, those are just minor changes that I believe you
I
already.
think it was just cleaning it up, wasn't it?
I was gonna, I have it typed up. I don't know if I sent it to you.
No, I didn't see it. I printed this off from the village website.
So I'll put those all together and before we go to council with
Yes.
revision suggestions, I'll have it all
Yeah, it's just
and we can look at it again.
secretarial oversight kind of thing.
So.
709.
One thing I'd like to have us look at or think about.
Okay, I'll add that to next meeting agenda items.
It's section 303 of our zoning code.
303, is that
That's part of the single
R2.
family district.
R2 or R1?
That would be the R2, because R1
Yeah.
is.
Section 303, R2. What you
I don't know
got
what
in
you call this asterisk down here. That's where it starts.
On the automotive vehicles or trailers of any kind or type without current license plates shall not be parked or stored on any residentially zoned property other than in completely enclosed buildings. However, one boat, one travel trailer may be stored in the rear yard if they have a current license.
This is gonna turn into a hornet's nest. And I don't know when this was originally drafted, but a lot of these travel trailers are so huge anymore that it's basically impossible to put them in a rear yard. So I think maybe we should look at that and possibly doing some changes like having, I don't know, maybe behind the front of the house, but still on a driveway. They're so heavy, you can't put them in the yard. They're gonna sink and be gone. But, yeah, I think we need to possibly take a look at that.
Yeah, let me, what section is that, Bill?
It's 303 and page 4 on the new book of 75 pages.
Well, this is the original as far as I can tell.
Page 4 is where it starts at 303, and then the actual verbiage is
So I'm
on
not-
page 5.
Yeah, the, under parking requirements,
Yeah, approved 6/15 of 2022 by the council.
so it's in the original here, that's been in here since 76, however, one boat and one travel trailer may be stored in the rear yard if they have a current license. So that goes back to the,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know, it's, back then, they didn't have campers probably as big as they do at this point in time. With
Right.
Fifth wheels.
right?
I think we need to kind of visit that and possibly make some changes in it.
Well,
But that's.
I've got one, I probably wouldn't wanna park in the grass behind my house.
Yeah, it's not as if they're a utility trailer, just, you know, no weight to them.
So, campers. well, could we just strike the rear yard from that part or
So I
something
know
like
one
that?
time, and this was a previous councilman, Brennan, and I couldn't find anything on it, he said that the trailer should not extend past the front of the house. They could sit in the driveway the next day, so it wasn't there when you drive by, it wasn't, the first thing you see in the camper set. We had problems with somebody parking a camper in the front yard, on Canal Street, West Canal one time, I mean, it sat there for years, finally, I think that's what.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, I think we've got to be reasonable with some of this stuff, just because times change, equipment changes. You got these big diesel buses, you're not gonna drive them in your backyard.
no, especially.
And you're
on
gonna
the older
restrict
part of
people who
town.
have small homes and small property from buying something that they might want because they can't get a backyard access.
Well, I mean, I've got my sister-in-law and her husband, there's no way, even if they wanted to, they could have got it parked in the backyard, but they had a camper and they paid to have it stored somewhere, and then when they were gonna go on a camping trip, they pulled it out, I mean, if you're gonna make that kind of investment, you might wanna think about, where am I gonna store this? And some of these houses now, you've got just a 5-foot rear setback, and there's not room even in the backyard. I don't.
I think,
I don't know what the answer is.
if we would clean up the campers and motor homes that are unlicensed would be a big help, be a start. There's a lot of those.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of one down
Yeah,
on Daggett Street,
West Daggett,
right next
motor
to,
home.
right next to Oldie McMichael's apartments, right there. There's a short motor home, right?
Yep,
Set there, piece of junk.
grass is taller than the wheels, so you know it's been there for a few.
It's been there for years.
Those are wildflowers.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
probably unlicensed.
Without a
Oh,
doubt.
yeah, yeah,
But,
Well, then it's
you know,
breaking several violations.
yeah.
you can't verify it unless you go on the property because it's backed in. Now, I don't know what, if you go on there to say, okay, you don't have license, and now you've broken the law, you've trespassed. So whether you have to go through the police to verify who lives at this
But
residence.
if I was to go
Is
knock
that
on the
vehicle-
door and I weren't at the front, but maybe
Yeah,
just see if they were in the garage or something. But,
and the whole place is trashed. I'm sure you've heard about the violations of junk sitting everywhere around that building.
Yeah.
Ladders in the trees, it's been there for a few years.
Front doors are in the yard.
that the one that has a half-built shed in the side yard and.
But all in all, our little town here is cleaner and nicer than
Got a lot.
Lyme and
It is.
Paulding, and
Mhm.
It is.
so I think we're doing a pretty good job.
The fact that we're having this meeting and we're discussing it and we're going and talking to our friends and our family about what we're discussing, and then shows that we take it serious as a village, and it is something we take pride in, having a nice village. So all your hard work is definitely appreciated, and
I don't recall who just made the comment, but I would tend to agree with the general comment of, instead of worrying about front yard, rear yard, if we just focused on those things that are clear violation, unlicensed,
That would be a big one.
abandoned, let's say, type of things. I mean,
Yeah.
And then go from there.
those are the ones that are important, right?
Yeah.
right?
You know, if I've got my boat or my camper and it's sticking past the front of my house, probably nobody's gonna object.
Right.
You know, other than if we wanted to strictly
Yeah.
enforce something, but, we choose how strictly to enforce.
Well,
You know, as a
we're
general rule.
limited to a certain extent just based on how much time we have
Yeah,
to throw
I mean,
at any one thing.
you
What's
know,
gonna be your priority? It's
you know,
fine.
Your heads would spin off, the two of you, to try and, adjudicate and administer all the violations that pertain to anything. And you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Pretty much.
no one is expecting or intending to go down that path,
Mm-mm.
but
Yeah.
Are we gonna set our next meeting?
You wanna do one in October? I don't know that we have anything. What do you wanna talk about?
I think that if something comes up, call a meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna
and-
say, if
Okay,
we don't
that
have
sounds good.
anything,
Or we could put one on there, and if there's nothing like with the April one, we could,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll leave that up to you whether there's a meeting or not.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And there's no dangling
If-
issues, I
if-
mean,
if-
so like the most
No.
common stuff that you're dealing with is like fences and secondary buildings. Have there been any, circumstances that are problematic that we need to think about?
yeah, the
In
only
recent
thing,
years?
yeah.
There might be a couple things, like with the trailer when they change hands, that was something George recommended, that are outside of mobile homes.
Oh, like
Parks.
right,
Another thing might be is, it seems like what you deal with mostly is signs. I think we really need to have a special section for signage and materials and specifications, so people don't come in submitting stuff and then they're like, I don't have any specifications to try to meet.
Right.
I think we need to address that as a sign person. We
Well, I think you
keep
got a
running
good
into this
job
problem.
in Catching them out there, and then, yeah, you got.
Well,
You got.
It would have been
You know,
nice if it had been like
for
the other
height.
ones, and I think they would have if we'd have
Yeah.
communicated with it.
I drove out there today, and it is put in the ground pretty nice. Maybe not right.
It's
but
concreted
nice.
in. It follows the specifications.
Yeah.
But I think we do need to, instead of using the building structure code, which is what Gabe quoted them, and I think that's all we have. But I think we need one that's dedicated for signage,
Well, and
because all we're
Like
using now
the-
is structures.
is it the primary purpose, to
We did something
advertise
with
for
signs.
services at that location or somewhere else? How do you,
kicked it.
like, I think we could,
Yeah.
I think this all needs addressed, but
Well,
how it's built, materials. Like, right now, we have one line.
so
One line.
technically, if a sign's a permanent structure, then it should have a foundation,
Well, the problem
and it
is
should have no
nobody,
gaps between the foundation
Well,
and
nobody
the
looks
structure.
in the code.
nobody
That code
looks,
didn't
That's
say
how,
nothing.
it's very
You can-
very broad, that's how
nobody
I would-
looks,
Okay.
nobody looks at that
So we
as a
need to
sign,
add
as a
signs
structure.
onto our
We
next
look at it
one.
as a sign. That's why it needs its own.
But if it
Because
was a
nobody's gonna use-
billboard and it was 18 by 30 or whatever Brian quoted, that's a structure. It needs engineered, it needs to have an engineer stamp that it's gonna stand up in 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
And that one will have no problem. I know this because I'm a sign person.
Yeah.
Illuminate is the standard structure. I know this stuff. This is why you need somebody who knows what they're
Okay.
doing to
Well-
write up a specification chart.
But I feel like you
Not just
as a
making-
sign professional, Bryce, should have been able to tell them that, look, make sure you get a permit before you put this
Wait,
up
I
in
don't know.
Antwerp. Because
I
they
didn't know
told
it-
me that you build it for them.
I made the sign. I didn't know where it was going. Actually, I was told it was going in Oakwood. So I don't know why you would say that to me, because
Well,
I
I
wasn't the
mean-
installer.
So
But that's not,
this is
but
the
that's not the
second sign,
case.
third
Okay.
sign of yours that I've had to deal with
Again,
that
Okay.
didn't have a
Because there's
permit.
no.
Okay, guys, this is getting out of
Do we
hand. I've
need a
got
meeting
too
or
much to
not?
do tonight. I got
Yeah.
way too much to do tonight.
We've gotta have
Let's
specifications.
table this one for the next meeting.
Have a motion to adjourn,
I motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor, stand up.